1847, Thomas Edison was born in this house in Milan, Ohio. He had blue eyes, fair hair, and as one historian described it, an abnormally large head. Edison's father, Samuel Edison Jr., ran a successful lumber mill at the time and had come to Ohio of Dutch stock by way of Canada. Later on, Sam failed in business, strayed from his marriage, and once thrashed the young Thomas Alva for burning down a barn. Nancy Elliott Edison, Tom's mother, whom he looked like, had 7 children, though only 4 lived to maturity. When Tom was taken out of school because it was thought that he was stupid, his mother, a former teacher, was the only source of schooling he had. Thomas Edison was a cheerful youngster, though full of mischief. But his misadventures were more the result of his enormous curiosity than they were the wanton pranks of childhood. In fact, he didn't have much of the usual kind of childhood. His idea of play was work, and by age 11, he had built his own telegraph and had taught himself Morse code. At 12, he had a full-time job as candy butcher and newsboy on the Grand Trunk Railway. It was during the all-day layovers of the train in Detroit that Tom discovered the Detroit Public Library. And as he said, I started with the first book on the bottom shelf and went through the lot, one by one. I read the library. We're still in the library office at West Orange. There are 10,000 volumes here. Who can doubt that the child is father to the man? At about age 12, just after taking the railway job, Edison got scarlet fever. This seemed to have caused his deafness, which grew steadily worse over the years until he suffered total impairment. Legend says the deafness was caused by a train man beating Tom about the ears and throwing him off the train after some experiment of his that set the car on fire. Not true. None of it, that is, except the fire. Edison's own version of his deafness is that one day when he was late and running to catch a train pulling out, a man hoisted him aboard by yanking on his ears. And as Edison said, something in my head snapped, but he saved my life. I told you Edison used to work 18 to 20 hours a day. Once he is alleged to have worked 5 days straight without sleep. Actually, it is only 72 hours. Note that I said only. He did keep a bed here, though, and took frequent cat naps. Back in Michigan, Edison was feeling ambivalent about his father and left home at age 16. He traveled around the country working as a journeyman telegrapher, finally ending up in Boston at age 21. By then, he had become a master telegrapher and had begun his tinkering, as he described it. After 1 or 2 successes, Edison set up as a freelance inventor. He had some failed ideas and fell deeply into debt. He left Boston to try his luck in New York. He arrived early in the summer of 1869, virtually penniless, and it looked like he was going to remain that way. This is Edison's early stock ticker. Western Union handed him a $500,000 order for his machines, and Edison opened his first manufacturing plant in Newark, New Jersey. He was 24 years old. From Menlo Park came the invention that earned Edison the title, the Wizard of Menlo Park, and wizardry it seemed, the incandescent electric light. Even in Edison's day, quite a few people had the idea for getting a filament to burn electrically in a glass vacuum. But what kind of filament? One that wouldn't consume itself in the fire? That was the big question, and Edison came up with the big answer. The first successful bulb had a carbonized number 9 ordinary cotton thread filament, and on October 21, 1879, Edison's red-hot hairpin in a bottle, as people would call it, stayed lit for 13.5 hours straight. By May of 1880, Edison had switched to a carbonized bamboo filament and made a bulb which burned for 1,200 hours. From the beginning, Edison had seen that the overall problem of electric lighting was not just to make a single bulb illuminate, but to provide thousands upon thousands of individual units which could be turned on and off at will, all of them powered by a central generating source of electricity. And, practical man that he was, he also devised a meter to record use and determine cost. Nobody had foreseen the system in this detail and complexity. In order to establish this system, Edison left Menlo Park in February 1881 for New York to set up the first electric light and power company. 1 year and 7 months later, 85 customers with 400 lamps in a half square mile of downtown New York, for the first time, began paying electric bills when the switch was thrown on September 4th, 1882.